can't give a driver's license that says David Freeman.
What's David's residence? Florida or is it Georgia?
No, this is Florida. But it was just a made up name. I go to like high school with a kid named David Freeman. So I had an ID, but I can't give that to a cop. Like that's enough to get like rent a place or do something. So we go to Atlanta, make an ID, set it up, make some business cards, set up a full website, set up some get an HQ, which is that like the company that will you can do virtual, you can rent virtual, you rent offices, and they'll answer your phone for like $100 a month, and they'll forward them. So it seems like you have an office. They give you a phone number, you call up, and they say, hi, United Southern Bank, and they'll answer the phone and forward that. So we get one of those, make a business card for Becky. She rents a house from a guy named Michael Shanahan. So we rent Michael Shanahan's house. It's like $200,000 house in Alpharetta. And I then go to Alabama. I then order Scott Cousineau's birth certificate, social security card. I think I registered to vote in his name, and I made a lease agreement in his name, and I think that's all I needed. And then I went to Alabama and got a driver's license in his name. So I went into the DMV, get him all these documents, and which are almost all legal except for the lease. I said, sit over there. I sit over there. I sit down. So 20 minutes later, I have a driver's license. $20-something. It's nothing. So I get a driver's license. Now I'm driving a car an Audi that is in the name of Matt Collins. So I park that. I then go get Social Security to issue me a Social Security number in the name Scott Cousineau. And I then turn around and I go and I get a loan, put down 20-30%. So all these first-time buyers. 30% down, rent, get like a Honda or something. So now we're living in a house. We've got some furniture, bedroom furniture, and I go downtown. I pull the title to this guy, Michael Shanahan's house, and I go downtown and I satisfy the loan on his house. So he had 2 loans with Bank of America. So I create 2 satisfaction of loans from Bank of America. So Michael Shanahan owns the house in the name of Michael Shanahan. He has one mortgage with Bank of America and a second one. When you pay your mortgage off, the way Public Records knows it's paid off is they mail Public Records a satisfaction of mortgage. It's a one-page document, and it's notarized. So I have 2 of those. I filled out 2. I created 2 of them. I just ordered, you can do research. So when I went downtown, I researched Bank of America satisfaction mortgages. And, thousands show up, so I just grab a couple of them. Now I know the basic template, they're all different, by the way. So it's not like you even have to be that close. But whatever, I mimicked some of them. I had a notary stamp, not hard to get. You go in and you go into 3 different Office Depots, and you say, hey, I need a notary stamp, and you give them the information, and you come back 4 days or whatever, a week later, and they give it to you. So I've got these notary stamps, so I notarize the satisfaction. I go downtown, I file them, boom, the mortgages are gone. Keep in mind, Bank of America is still paying the mortgage. They don't know that they've been satisfied. Public Records, they're not notified. So those are gone, but it takes about a month or 2 for it to show up. Atlanta was that far behind. It was Fulton County, and they were just way behind. So we just kind of have to stick around for a while, right? So we're going on little vacations. We're going to New Orleans. We're going to different places. As Scott Cousineau driving cars. I reopened several bank accounts. We opened multiple bank accounts. Michael Eckert. Aaron, Michael Eckert. Or Michael Eckert. I actually legally changed his name to Michael Johnson, I think. But at this point, it was just Michael Eckert. So I, I
Why did you see?
I'm bored. I want to see what the process is. How much
Yeah.
does it cost? Is it possible? Let me see if I can change this guy's name. It was $1,500. I changed it.
Without him ever showing up at your license, you could.
Yeah, I have a driver's license in his name.
Right.
I am him. But he did show up. He showed up with the lawyer's office. So,
Right.
So I'm so I do that. I'm living in the house, um, and we're driving along one day, and I'm saying, man, we gotta get real. Like these people that are calling, like that one guy, I get his information, but during the course of taking the application, and I'm asking like these government survey questions at the very end. There's like 20 questions, and I'm rambling along, and at some point he was like, but he volunteered. Like I never even asked anybody about criminal history, and he ended up saying something. Well, I do have a felony. Does that matter? And he said it was a DUI. I've had a couple DUIs. They get my license back, and that was part of the reason he had bad credit. And it was like, okay, no, it doesn't matter. Don't worry, I'm getting along. So I'm just taking your, stealing your, sharing your information. So I get all this information. I'm gathering it, and so one of the things I said to Becky while we were sitting at the stoplight is, I'm like, we got to get real people's real information. And I said, like, for instance, I said, what if I steal somebody's identity? I get a driver's license in his name, 4 states from where he lives, and he gets a DUI. I could get pulled over 2 years later and get arrested for a DUI that he got in Florida. And she's like, well, what are you thinking? Are you thinking like criminals? Or are you thinking like prisoners? Like mental patients? Like, and I went, I mean, I don't, and I looked over and it was a homeless guy holding a sign. And I went, like that guy. She goes, the hobo? Like, I know who calls him a hobo. And she's like, the hobo? I said, yes, that guy. I said, hold on. Pulled over to a Subway, got out. She went inside to get Subway. I walked across the street, pulled out
person, a real person.
They're just not using their real person.
Yeah, they're not actively engaging with the economic system, the financial system. They're not employed. They don't have houses and all that kind of
They,
stuff.
they don't file taxes. They don't. So one of the questions I even asked the guy, and then one of the last questions I said, do you believe that you will be gainfully employed within the next 2 years? Everyone said no, no, no. So, it's like, okay, he's like, I don't, and they all had alcohol problems. Honestly, he was my talking about was pretty clear. I mean, it takes literally 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to fill out a form. And I filled it out for him, of course. But even filling it out and that brief, just asking questions back and forth, half of them you could tell he wasn't the right guy. Like, these aren't guys that are going to go out and are going to get jobs. They're not cleaning up. So they were perfect for my purposes, as horrible as I know that sounds. So
you feel bad about this little small tangent?
No. Do I feel bad about it?
The homeless people in society are really a difficult life. Like dealing with mental illness, dealing with drug addiction, all that kind of stuff.
Remind me of being in prison. Prison, and the people that are in prison that are going to be homeless or have been homeless or with mental illness that I've dealt with in halfway houses and even doing this. I don't know what you. I don't even know that you house them. You can't necessarily even house them together. They cause such problems. Like, I don't know what the solution is other than just kind of keeping them fed maybe and keep them away from normal people, so they don't cause crime or whatever. I don't know about housing them in one area. That seems like a mistake. Like, there is absolutely no good solution to that problem. None. Because it's not like, hey, if we gave you a house and we gave you job training and we gave you this, okay, you might get 5%, 10, but most of them are on the street because they've just messed up over and over and over again.
But
just kind of gave up.
But I guess we still have to remember that they're human beings. And you mentioned on some Fight on the Belly, he highlights the humanity of people who've had a real difficult life.
He's stuff. Martin Plato is amazing. He's amazing. And one of the things he had said was like these are real people, and he's like their stories, like they have stories, and they need But if you also talk to Mark, he'll tell you you can't give him money. You can't like he's tried every time he's reached
mentioned, I think you mentioned U.S. Marshals, which is interesting. Cops, general police, CIA. I guess CIA is international only.
Yeah.
FBI is internal.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so who is, when you're doing this, who are you afraid of?
So by the time I got to Atlanta, within 4 or 5 days, the FBI raided my home. I guess I kind of missed that.
Back
So
in Florida.
back in Florida, when I left and drove to Atlanta and left, remember this FBI was going to show up a few days later. They were going to arrest me. And then I want to get out of the thing. So, and at this point, by the way, there's multiple articles showing up in Tampa. So the St. Petersburg Times is is writing multiple articles about me
With your face.
with my picture. Yeah, but it's honestly it's free. I mean, not free. I mean, it's post internet, but it isn't interesting. Like nobody.
No.
It's not huge. And honestly, it's a it's a local newspaper in Tampa. Not that big of a deal. Like I'm not concerned about that so much at this point. What I'm concerned about is getting a chunk of money, just moving on, and kind of reestablishing ourselves in a better way, where we're not living in a building that we're going to be committing fraud in with our house. So, but I'm living this way. I make a fake ID named Michael Shanahan, and I call up three secured, or sorry, three hard money lenders. A hard money lender is a guy that lends his own money or other investors' money on property, kind of like a bank, but he's lending his own money, so he doesn't have to really meet banking requirements. And can charge a much higher interest rate. These guys are charging 12, 13% interest, simple interest. And they're only lending you a much lower percentage of the value of your home. They're not lending you 90% of the value. They're lending you 65%, 60%. So I call three of these guys. They all come out to the house at different times, and each one of them says, "I'll lend you 100,000, or it's like 150,000, 150. Like they all lend you up to 150,000." So we schedule three separate closings. None of them know about the other person. But what I do is I close I close one loan on, let's say, Monday, and then one on Tuesday, and then one on whatever, Wednesday or Thursday, or that may have all been the same day, to be honest, but I don't remember. But the point is, I go to three separate title companies or real estate attorneys, and we close, and I get checks for, after costs and everything, the total ends up being roughly 400,000. So I've got 400,000. Becky and I run another scam in Tallahassee, Florida. We get like 50 grand, and And I had gone into a bank one time, and they have banks that they cash. They actually cash like large checks. Like if you go into Bank of America and you try and cash a check for $15,000 or 25,000, they probably won't do it. They'll tell you we don't have that much cash on hand. We don't this, we don't that. They have certain banks that do that. So they told me where one of those was. I went there. I had a check for like 29,000 that had been cut on closing for Michael Shanahan. Remember, I refinanced Michael Shanahan. I've got a check for 29,000 that was issued to Scott Cudno. So I'm sitting in the bank. I go in there. I say, I need to cash this. And she says, you're going to talk to the manager. I go, okay. She says, go sit down over there. I go sit down in the little glass cubicle. He comes over and he says, I see you're trying to cash this check. And I was like, right. He goes, why don't you just deposit in your own bank? And I went, my bank account, my bank is a credit union or something. And it's in like Florida. Like they'll hold this thing for like 2 weeks. Like I need the money now. I have people I need to pay. He's like, well, sure. And I was like, well, it's fine. It's a cashier's check. Like, it's good. And he goes, no, it's good. It's good. Like, you have the money. And he goes, yeah, we have the money. He said, it's just odd. Hold on. He goes back in the back and he comes back and he says, where'd you get this check? Cashier's check. I said, this is a cashier's check. It was drawn off of a closing for somebody's property that we're doing, the company I work for, we're putting an addition on. Comes back and why do you need cash? I was like, I'm cashing guys' checks that work for the company. Like a lot of these guys are like Mexican guys. They get their check, they go to a check cashing company, or they get charged 5-10%. So I cash them. I'm like, I don't know, like what? The check's good, right? Like and he's like, yeah, we're just trying to verify some stuff. Anyway, um, yeah, hold on. And leaves again. And I remember my cell phone rang. And I pick up the phone. It's Becky. What are you doing? What's taking so long? I go, the guy's being a jerk. You know, I go, oh, she's like, oh my God, get out of the bank, get out of the bank. Oh, I can't get out of the bank. The guy's got my ID. He's got my credit card, my ID, and the check for 29,000. Like he's gonna call the police. So I just jump up and run. And I go, look, don't call me again. I'll let you know. It'll be fine. Hang on the phone. She calls back. Same conversation. I'm bouncing on the wall, man. I got calls right now. Like, it'll be fine. Hang on the phone. He comes back out and he goes, he said, I said, hey, so what's taking? He goes, we're trying to get in touch with Michael Shanahan to verify the check. So that's not good for me. Like, I'm thinking, okay. And he walks away. The phone rings. Becky, what's going on? He goes, they're trying to get hold of Michael Shanahan. He goes, oh my God! Oh my God! And I'm like, and I remember thinking I should run there with the keys. There's a good chance I run out of this place. She says, do not run.
By the way, when you're sitting there, you're who? Scott? You're Scott?
I'm Scott Cudno.
And then
the other guy. Right, they're saying they're trying to get in touch with Michael Shanahan. So then the phone rings. My cell rings again. I look and it's not Becky. It's not Becky. So I pick up the phone. I go, hello. And she says, hi, this is Kim. Is this from Central Bank? Is this Michael Shanahan? So I'm like, yes, it is Michael Shanahan. And she says, there's a guy here. He's trying to cash a check. It's very large. Could you verify the payee? And I go, sure. It's Scott Cudno. I said, I believe the amount is $29,000. She goes, that's right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I said, okay. I said, hey, by the way, how'd you get my number? I said, my phone number. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. We called the title company, and the title company gave us your phone number. Well, I closed those loans. That's not Zelle. That's why if they looked in any other way, they could have gotten in touch with the real Michael Shanahan. So I was like, oh, okay. Hang up the phone.
You're sitting. You answered the phone from the bank while sitting in the bank as Michael. As Scott pretending to be.
So I just right. So I just verified the check myself.
Not pretending to be Scott, pretending to be
right. So I wait there, terrified still. They come out like 2 minutes later. The manager comes out, plus a woman. I'm assuming maybe it was Kim. She never said anything. And she walks out. She says, and he counts out the money twice. 29,000, 29,000. And I stand up, and I'm like shoving the money in my pocket, like I'm trying to get out of it so quick. said, exactly. He goes, I can't put my finger on it. I go, it'll come to you. And I turn around and I just bolt right out of there. And keep in mind, a week or so later, the Secret Service shows up. Did you cash a check for $29,000? So what's so funny is like that was one of the last checks we cashed. So we ended up with like 400,000.
Was there connections to the Secret Service and those guys?
No,
they ever had
so the FBI is looking for me as kind of a sneaky informant. Yeah. And they put out a fugitive warrant for me, which is how the U.S. Marshals got involved.
The U.S. Marshals tracked down fugitives.
Yes, federal fugitives they tracked down.
So everybody's after you. You're in every service.
Right, I'm on the FBI's
most wanted list.
At that point, the Secret Service got involved once I leave Atlanta. So when Becky and I pack up our bags and we leave Atlanta, the Secret Service got involved because of identity theft, banking, identity theft. The Secret Service doesn't just do counterfeiting and protect the president. They also protect the financial infrastructure of the United States, and they especially have jurisdiction when identity theft is involved.
So identity theft plus bank fraud,
that's it. That's their territory. So they
U.S. Marshals are just fugitives.
U.S. Marshals just fugitives. They don't do any.
They're all kind of working. Okay. They're all kind of working together.
Yeah. Like the U.S. Marshals are, let's say, an arm of all of the various law enforcement agencies, federal agencies, not the states. The states have their own fugitive task forces for fugitives.
So when you leave Atlanta, basically everybody's after you.
Everybody's after you.
Did you know this at that time? Or did you sense it?
No, I mean now every day you're looking your name up every day. Like I'm not. So I'm just trying to get a bunch of money and just blend in, right? Things were not as interconnected back then as they are now, but they're starting to get interconnected. But of course, I have no idea how much. I barely go on the internet for anything. Dating. My family doesn't see it. I'd never been on Facebook. At this point, Facebook isn't even out yet. This is 2006.
Still, you trying to stay low?
Yeah, I am. I'm not a flashy person. Like I'm not driving. Like I didn't go out and buy a red Lamborghini. I'm driving $40,000-$50,000 cars. I've had some sports cars, 70, 80. Maybe that's $150,000 sports car now, but it's still not flashy. It's not like it's bright red or yellow. Like there's always something, nondescript. And I'm living in areas that these cars are everywhere. I go to so I end up going to Charlotte, North Carolina. We rent an apartment. We decide to run a scam in South Carolina. So I go to Columbia, South Carolina, and in between this period of time, we go to Las Vegas. And when we go to Las Vegas to drop off a bunch of money to Becky's son's father, who's taking care of her son. We drop off some money there. We go and we start, and while we're there, it's like, hey, there's homeless people here. So usually I don't feel bad telling people. You make me feel bad.
I'm sorry, my judgment is strong. No, but you don't have to be collecting identities, I guess, to be constantly creating new identities.
So I got my survey form. So I go and we go out. I'm taking surveys, and I end up going up to this guy. There's like 2 or 3 guys that are standing on a bench. We're sitting on a bench or something. And I see him, and I walk up, and one guy gets up and he comes over. He's like, "Hey, what do you need?" And I went, "I'm taking surveys for the Salvation Army to determine whether to place on my homeless facility." And the guy goes, "No, I'm not interested." And they always say that. They pay $20 cash right now. It'll take 5 minutes. And they're like, well, "You $20 cash right now?" I'm like, "Yeah." And show them the cash. They go, "Okay, yeah. What do you need?" Name, date of birth, Social Security. So when I get to criminal record, the guy, he says, criminal record. He says, "Yeah, I've been arrested." Because I've been arrested like 3, 4 times for he said for prostitution. He said, but they're like misdemeanors. And I went, okay. And it's like, prostitution. To me, women get charged with prostitution. Men get charged with solicitation. I went prostitution, and he says, yeah. He said, I offered to blow an undercover cop for $20. He said, that's what I thought you were coming out here for. real estate agent. We drive around for a day. We look at like 5 or 6 houses. I put five owner financing contracts on 5 of them. So I get them. He writes up 5 contracts. All of them are asking for owner financing. I'll put down 10%. I want owner financing. 2 of them end up coming back and saying, yes, we'll do it. I have 2 closings. One of them's a house that's worth like 225,000. I put down 25 grand. Another one's 110,000. I put down 11,000. So I buy these 2 houses. I then satisfy the loan that's on both the houses. Everything seems like it's going okay, although Becky's a lunatic. At this point, she's had so many. She won't take her medication. She's had so many outbursts that, and by this time we've had plastic surgery. Like she's gotten plastic surgery. She's gotten a boob job. She's gotten liposuction. All kinds of things. So look very different.
Like appearance changes or
Thinner, better looking, just tightened everything up. I guess she was in her, she had a kid and she was 30, 33, 34. I don't know how she was, 20, 32, 33. I don't know, roughly my age. So yeah, I thought she looked, she lost like 15 pounds. Like she was not because of the surgery, but just in general, we're just working out. We're going mountain climbing. We're riding bikes. We're doing, this claw's not a full-time job, so we have plenty of time. So we're goofing off, and but she's also a lunatic. She's getting the cops called. She's able to go out. She's able to stay stoned 24 hours a day. She's going out with friends, drinking. I never leave the house. Even to this day, I really rarely ever leave the house. I'm very much a homebody kind of person. So, like the idea that I'm able to make my living doing YouTube and I never have to leave my house, well, I don't ever go anywhere except for the gym and back home. That's it. So, what happens is I've actually moved her out of my apartment. I got an apartment downtown, 30-story building. Actually, moved her into another apartment. She's that much of a lunatic. Can't even leave the same place. Multiple times I've tried to leave her. She's called me up and begged me to come back. Horrible. So I end up buying a couple houses in Columbia, South Carolina. I satisfy the loans on the houses. I've got an ID, not a driver's license, but an ID in the name of Gary Lee Sullivan. And I refinanced those houses. But keep in mind they were owner financing. But they also had mortgages. So there's something called a wraparound mortgage. So these guys did wraparound mortgages. So let's say you buy a house for $250,000, and the bank lends you 200,000, and then you owner finance the house to me. So I give you 50 grand down, but I'm not able to get a loan from the bank to pay off your mortgage. So what we do is you do a wraparound mortgage. So I'll pay you your mortgage and you pay the bank. So there is a second mortgage on the property, but it's called a wrap. It's wrapped around the reverse. Yeah. So I wouldn't mind it. These have wraparound mortgages. So you're always selling.
you're good at it.
So I go, I satisfy the loans, the owner finance loan, the wraparound mortgage, and I satisfy the loans, the original loans that these people took out on their own mortgages. One of them, by the way, you have to sign as the president of the bank, right? So I sign it as C. Montgomery Burns, which is the aging tycoon in the guy that owns the power plant, the Simpsons TV show. So I signed that and I notarized it, which I thought was cute. I actually wanted to sign all of them cartoon characters, and Becky was screaming her head off and wouldn't let me do it, right? Like I wanted to do all the Simpsons, right? But she wouldn't let me do it. She's screaming and hollering, so I ended up, what it is, so I sign it, notarize it. All of those are satisfied. I then go to multiple banks and I start refinancing all these properties multiple times. So I'm applying for these loans and I'm getting the loans, but I'm closing. So I've got like 5 or 6 loans on this one house. So the house is like 225,000.
Listen,
Whatever.
he's amazing.
I borrow like go to Bank of America, they'll open one. Then you go to SunTrust, they'll open one. They're gonna ask. They might even ask you, did you open another bank account? Because every time you do it, there's an expiry into something called check system or action check. And so then they go. So then by the time you go to the third bank, they'll say, listen, something's not right. You got multiple expiries. If you go to a mercantile bank, they might go, well, we're gonna open one. They're gonna need an explanation, but you're not opening this. By the third one, they're gonna be like, absolutely, something's wrong here. Well, I've got multiple identities, but I can only open so many things. The other problem is that these checks, they'll only give you so much money on a refi. Usually after $100,000, they only want to let you walk away with, let's say, $100,000. So one of the things I did was I would typically record another mortgage and have them pay that mortgage off. So I opened a corporation to do that, so I could then turn around and go open a corporate bank account. But now it's not going off my information; it's going off the corporation. So I can open up multiple corporate bank accounts.
But these corporations are fake, they're real.
No, I went to a real corporate attorney, and had him open them. I gave him like $1,500, $2,000, and he opened up a corporation for me, Gary Sullivan. And I then turned around and I went and opened up multiple bank accounts in that corporation's name.
How are you keeping track of all this?
I'm
in your head, or do you have good organization?
I have every single identity has its own file with plastic inlays, sleeves for their passports.
That's nice and organized.
It's
Say, you open this, I'm Gary now.
Right. That's exactly what it is. Like you kind of go, boom, 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 boom. You sit in your car for a minute.
Come on, baby.
Put it down. You walk in.
Come on, baby.
Well, what happens is they went like 1.5 million, and I'm pulling money out of the bank, and then one day I get a phone call on Gary Sullivan's cell phone. The guy, it's a lawyer. They call him. He says, "Hey, I'm a lawyer with Washington Mutual. We have an issue." I said, "What's that?" He says, "We got a phone call from the title company. One of the title companies that I was attempting to refinance one of the piece of property with noticed that they've been sent a document that shows that I had purchased the property, and I said I purchased it cash, and the document said I purchased it cash, and they got that there was actually a mortgage on the property, and so somehow or another they connected it, and they called Washington Mutual. They said, look, there's an issue. We have a fraudulent document here. And he said, so they had a conversation. I remember the lawyer started arguing because he wanted to charge me like yield spread and fees and stuff, and I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'll pay it. I'm like, so it ends up being a little over 100,000, and I'm like, that's it. So he's like, okay, and so he says, okay, that sounds good. And so he said, okay, all you have to do is go get the check, and he said, bring it to a Washington Mutual branch. Tell them I said, I'm not going in a Washington Mutual branch. I'll bring you the check. So he calls it back. He's not doing that. And yeah, I'll bring it here. You guys take care of it. No problem. Okay. Hang up the phone. And he turns to me. He says, okay, well, we have a problem. He said, we still have a problem with the other mortgages. And I went, right. And he said, and he goes, okay, well, I said, they don't know anything. He said, I know, but Gary, he said, what if they find out? I said, they find out that they're like in second, third, fourth place. He's like, right. I said, I leave town. And he went, so they both laughed. Gary, you can't just leave town. Right? They have a copy of your driver's license. They have your social security number. They have your birth certificate. I said, they'll find you. It's the FBI. And I go, you're assuming. He goes, no. No. And they looked at me and they went, and I remember he said, we'll cross that bridge when we get here. I said, right. My immediate problem is getting rid of these people. And he goes, right. So I go get the check, bring it back, give it to them. Never called the FBI.
Can't believe you got away with the Washington.
Oh, oh.
I mean, these are all really close calls.
I have two more close calls that my hands sweat thinking about it. I walked into Wachovia. I just opened this account 2 months ago. It's a new account. So whenever I would go in there, I'd say, hey, I need $7,000, $6,000, anything over $3,000, they had to go get permission, right? Like authorization. So she's like, okay, yeah, I gotta go to the no problem. So the girl walks in the back, sitting there waiting. All of a sudden, a massive person reaches over my hand and grabs my wrist, and somebody grabs it from the other one. They pull my hands behind my back. These are two of possibly the largest law enforcement officers I've ever seen in my entire life. They're massive, and they handcuff me and they say, "You're Mr. Sullivan. You're being detained. We're taking you into custody and putting you. We're holding you until a detective gets here."
What are you guys? U.S. Marshals or is this cops?
These are sheriff's deputies.
Sheriff's deputies. Okay.
And as they walked me in the back, they're calling me Mr. Sullivan. They sit me down, and by now the Secret Service are looking for me. They're calling me. They were calling us John and Jane Doe, but now they figured out who we were, and so now I'm on the Secret Service's most wanted list. I'm not like number one at that, like I probably was, but we just found out I was on that list. So it's getting bad. So they sit me down and I'm waiting, and I remember thinking that the FBI was coming. I don't really know. At that point, I couldn't tell you the difference between everything. And then 5 minutes go by, and I'm sitting there going, "What is going on?" Because I said, I came to Wachovia. I met with the loan officer. I said, I need a first mortgage. I need to pull out like $100,000. I want to start buying houses. He goes, that's right. You own another house here. Do you love it? I said, I do. I said, we're putting a new roof on it. We're going to build an addition. We're putting in a pool. I'm buying one right down the street from that one. I said, so obviously I'm pulling out money. I said, so I told them I need $100,000. They said, that's fine. They said they could only give me $100,000 loan. Something about Fannie Mae guidelines, which is true. And I said, so then she said, I can send you to a friend of mine who's a loan officer. She can get you a second mortgage, which she did. I said, then I told her she could only give me $100,000 or so, $190,000. And she said, you should get an equity line of credit if you're going to be doing like, renovating properties. So she sent me to somebody and they got me an equity line of credit. I said, I haven't committed fraud. That I wouldn't know how to commit fraud if you told me I did. What sounds more reasonable? A guy that works for a labor company ripped off a bunch of banks for over $500,000. I said, what if the loan officers got together and did something illegal? I said, there's a problem with the bank. And he said, I think you've got a problem with the bank. And this guy goes nuts. And while he's screaming, he needs to be arrested. This is fraud. My loan officers have not done anything illegal. They wouldn't do that. He says, look at his ID. His ID is fake. His ID starts with 000. South Carolina ID starts with 000. This guy's in California. He has no idea. So when he says that, the detective looks at my ID and he goes, listen, he said, this is a real ID. I ran this guy through in the ID. He said, this is Gary Sullivan. And I looked at him, I go, now I'm not Gary Sullivan. I go, come on, bro, what are we doing here? And he goes, I know Gary. And he says, I'm going to take him downtown. I'm going to talk to my lieutenant, whoever, captain, and I'm going to fill out a police report, and I'll let you know. And he hangs up. I get up. They've taken the handcuffs off. I stand up. As we're walking out with the detective, as we're all kind of walking out, he goes, hey, you have an ID. Do you have a driver's license? And I went, I do, but it's in like Nevada. And he goes, oh, that's right. This was in Vegas. And he looks at the two deputies, and they all kind of grin. And I think, he ran me through NCIC, which means he ran a statewide criminal database, which means he thinks I've been arrested 3 times for prostitution in Vegas. I'm humiliated. I was just like, and the grin told me, and I was just like, oh, man. And so one of the cops goes, here, give me the ID. He takes the ID, he goes, I'll check and see. Because I have to follow him back in my car. So he goes, and by the way, my car is in the name Michael Eckert. So Michael Eckert, he doesn't have a photograph of Michael Eckert.
Right.
Because you can't pull up photographs from other states. So he doesn't have a photograph, but he knows that's not my car. And he asked me, whose car are you driving? And I said, oh, that's my boss, Michael Eckert. And I said, that's my boss. And he goes, oh, Michael Eckert. I said, yeah, exactly. Back. I have no idea if this homeless guy has a driver's license in Nevada. I don't know. He had nothing. He comes back and does he have a valid license? He goes, yeah, it's valid. And he hands it to him, or he hands me the ID. And he says, he goes, valid? And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, well, it says he's like, he says he's 5'11". Like, it was like 5'10", 5'11". I'm clearly not 5'10", 5'11". And they all look at me and I go, fellas, with a good pair of shoes. Like that, and they all go, follow us, Gary. And I follow them back to the police station. Becky is calling me on the phone, screaming her head off. Now, I'd always told Becky, if I ever get arrested, immediately go get me a lawyer. The lawyer will be able to get me out on bond, because I'll be arrested for something stupid. I said it'll be something like trying to cash a check, a fake check, or something like that. It won't be, all my IDs are real, so it won't be for a fake ID. So my ID won't be in question. Most police departments and sheriffs at that time did not run your fingerprints through AFIS. So they didn't. So they tried they don't typically do it unless your identity is in question. I believe I have a valid driver's license or a valid ID in that state. So I go back. She's screaming. She's like, "Oh my god, you don't understand! Just checked the internet, the website. You are number one on the Secret Service's most wanted list." And I was like, I got bigger problems right now. They just held me in the bank. I'm following them right now. And she was like, get on the interstate, go. I cannot go. The detective's in front of me. The cops are behind me. They're escorting me. She's like, oh my God, run. I go, listen, I'm not a NASCAR driver. Like, I'm driving a 50 sports car, but it's not going to outrun radio or a helicopter. Like, that's not going to happen. I know it seems nice. I'm not that guy. So it's like, I can't. I said, look, you don't understand. I was in handcuffs 30 minutes ago. I just talked my way out of it. I'm going to get out of it. And I said, the worst that happens is I'll be arrested as Gary Sullivan. You can get me you can get me an attorney. He can get me out. And she goes, I'm not getting you an attorney. I'm not getting you out on bond. Becky, not risking everything I've got for you. Because she has all the money. We've got $700,000-$800,000 at this point. So, oh, and by the way, she's not even in North Carolina at this point. She's relocating to Houston, Texas. Because when this scam fell apart, we were going to move to Texas. So we were already moving there. So,
but by the way, just a small tangent. Where do you store money in situations like this? Like when you talk about 800,000, you have to keep moving accounts to ensure it's not accessible by FBI.
There's about 600,000 or 700,000 accounts, but keep on, I'm getting a lot of cash. Like, there's no Bitcoin, none of that stuff exists. So I probably should have bought diamonds or bought gold or I don't know anymore. All I could think of is go in slowly, be patient. Don't drain the accounts, fluctuate them. Like I was getting cashier's checks from one account to another, so the balances were doing this. They weren't just going shh, they were doing this. And then one day, boom, they're gone. So we got out like whatever. We got out like 600,000 or 700,000. There's still like 600,000 or 700,000 in the bank. But I'm not going back. I'm done. I actually, to be honest with you, well, look, I go in. So I go into the police station. And well, first she said, if you go in the police station, I'm done. If you get arrested, you're done. I said, well, then I better not get arrested. I hand him the phone. The cop's standing behind my phone. Get out. I go in the police station. I walk in. I fill out the police report. He tells me I got to talk to my captain real quick. Can you wait? He couldn't leave me in his cubicle. He goes, can you wait in the hallway? I can't leave you in the cubicle. So I go and I wait in the hallway. In the hallway are a whole wall full of, on the corkboard, wanted posters. Black and white, like car thief, rapist, murderer, Secret Service's most wanted, and I'm on my face is right there. I'm like, holy Jesus. And everything in me told me, run, bro. Just fucking launch right now. Right now. Just go. Your luck's run out. Not that I even thought there were so many, I didn't think he was going to do it. But it just, everything in me just said run. But the problem is if you've ever been into a police station, you're not getting out of it. Do you understand?
There's a lot of cops.
Not just that, but they buzz you in. You get in the elevator, you have to punch in a code. You have to punch in a code to get back out of the elevator. You have to punch in a code to get to the next door. It's like, it's impossible. Like, I'm not going to get in the elevator. So, guy comes back up, the cop comes back up, he says, hey, Gary, appreciate it, no problem. My captain said, we're good, we're going to wait for a phone call from her. No, the district attorney called already. They're looking into it. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I go downstairs, he walks me out to my car. He said, look, do me a favor. We living in like whatever, like a 20th floor or something in some huge high rise, great apartment. We drive by and I go, oh, stop the car. I want to get out. It's one of those cone things where there's flyers for the house, for any house. Or jump out, I get a flyer. And she's like, what are you doing? I go, well, I just want to, what's the flyer? And she says, I don't want to do a scam here. I want to live here. This place is nice. I love it here. And I went, right, I understand. I said, I'm not going to, I said, no, but I have to find an apartment. And she goes, oh, I'm just so disgusting. You can't stand to spend even a couple weeks with me. You just, and she goes just ballistic. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. And I know she's going to get me out. She's never going to get me out. Right? She's already told me that. So we go back to the apartment. We go upstairs. I was so scared. This chick was. I was so scared. I remember I was going up in the elevator, and this girl gets on. This clearly a stripper. I mean, drop dead, just like wearing stripper clothes. And I'm scared. Like, and as soon as she got on, Becky gave me that with the face, and I'm like this. I'm like staring at the floor, and never look at the girl. And I remember we get off the elevator, bing, it opens. I bolt off it. Becky bolts off it, and I off the elevator, and I remember she squealed. I bet you just what the fuck that tramp. And the girl, as the elevator doors are closing, goes, hey! I thought that was funny. So I go to the apartment. We we have a screaming match, kind of. Tell her I want to split up the money. She tells me she's not going to give me any split the money.
Why?
Because she said you can go somewhere else and do this again. You'll have $1 million in 6 months. I have to live off this money. Did she threaten you? Oh, she threatened to. It's funny because the conversation back and forth, I remember getting, no, I want to have it. And she goes, and she said, I'll give you $10,000. I said, you're mine. I said, I'm telling you right now, you come up with some reason. I'll take all of it. And she said, what did she say? I said, I'll take all of it. She said, what? Escape in that U-Haul the cops are going to be looking for in 5 minutes? And I just went, no. Keep in mind, all of my IDs, everything, are in the storage unit that she has a key to. Like, I'm not getting this over. I got an ID right now that says my name is Michael Eggert. I'm driving a U-Haul van.
Sounds like she has a lot of negotiation leverage.
Right. So we start arguing back and forth, and she says $100,000. I'll give you $100,000. I said, I'll take it. She counts it out. Counts out the 100,000. Later, when I recounted, it wasn't even 100. It was like 98,000. So, but we got them all wrong. 2,000, 5,000, 6,000. She's like 2,000, 5,000. Oh, that's it. She's like, that's fine. So I take it. I end up, I take it. I leave, and as I'm leaving, she'd always call me before on the phone and begged and pleaded and cried. I messed up. Please give me a chance. I'm sorry. I'll take my medication. I'm sorry. I thought it was better. I thought it was okay. And I remember walking out. I put my cell phone on the counter and just walked out. Went downstairs, got in the truck, and drove. Um, and drove. When I got to Louisiana, I stopped at Baton Rouge and and at some point I stopped and I got like, I think I got a room or something. At one point I know I stopped.
So you drove without a plan?
I drove back to Charlotte to get my car. So I can't be driving. So I stopped at Baton Rouge at one point and got a cell phone, like a burner phone, like a Verizon Virgin Mobile or something. One of those little phones. So I bought one. I call a few people at home, back home. Call my mom. She's in tears, crying. My dad's yelling in the background. I call.
What's your mom just in this small thing? What did your mom and dad say? Did anything stand out to you?
My dad, well, I hope you're happy. Your mother, every time someone mentions your name, your mother cries. Which is funny to me because, like, growing up, like, he's never concerned about her crying, So it was like, since when did you care, And my dad's he's an alcoholic. He's been sober for 2 years. me if I ever spoke with you to have you call us. And I was like, yeah, I did. So her name is Candace, and she wants you to call her. She says, at least call her. For God's sakes, maybe you just turn yourself in. Maybe you can negotiate for like a couple of years. Like, because if they're not going to catch you, then maybe turn yourself in. Maybe it'll help. At least hear her out. And I was like, okay, all right, whatever. Hang up the phone. I call Candace. She picks up the phone. And I go, hey, she goes, who's this? And I go, this is Matt Cox. And she goes, hey, hello, Mr. Cox. How are you? And I go, I'm doing okay. How's it going? I understand you want to talk to me. She goes, I do. I said, what can I do for you? She goes, you can turn yourself in. I go, well, that's not going to happen. I said, what else do you need? And she said, I think that you should think about turning yourself in. I said, why? Well, what am I looking at? She said, well, that's not how it works. The way it works is you turn yourself in, and, we take that into consideration. I said, no. That's not good enough. I said, I'm not stupid enough to turn myself in and hope for the best. So she says, well, let's talk about this. And I said, well, what am I looking at? She said, I don't really know. I can't, really, I can't tell you that. And I said, well, then we don't have anything to talk about. She said, well, wait a second. She said, let me call the U.S. Attorney. So she calls USC. So I said, okay, I'll call you back. And she said, well, give me your phone number. I'll call you. And I went, no. I said, I'll call you. I said, I'm going to hang up the phone and turn the phone off. I said, for all I know, you're triangulating the phone call right now or something. And she said, oh, give me a break. She said, you're not that important. And I remember thinking, like, she's like, right? Like, you're just some little fraudster guy running around, like, you're not a terrorist, like, and I almost was like, oh, okay, here's my number, which she probably already had, but I almost was like, okay, I'll wait for your call, and left my phone. I said, no, you know what, if I'm going to hang up the phone, I'm going to turn it off anyway, I'm not going to call you back. She's all right, whatever. I hang up. I turn off the phone. It turns out, I found out later when we were reading this information, she actually immediately called the U.S. Marshals, and they immediately called, took the phone number, and tracked back the phone, and immediately had two marshals from Baton Rouge go immediately to that place where I had been.
Damn.
Oh, listen, yeah, I mean,
They were fast.
yeah, she's good too. Not only that, I made the initial call sitting there in that where I went and bought the phone. It was like a gas station. There was also like a Subway station. I had ordered like a Subway. I was eating a Subway, playing on my computer, programmed the phone, and making phone calls. So by the time I talked to her, and they're driving, by that point I walked and got my vehicle, and I leave. But who knows? I don't know if they showed up 30 minutes late. I don't know. I could have hung out. Like, oh, I'm just gonna finish my food, finish around. So I go. I call her back an hour or two later. She says, listen, the first time hadn't gotten back with her, then he did. Then he came back. He said 7 years. He's got to turn himself in here. So okay, 7 years, but that seems like a lot. And I was like, 7 years. That's 7 years for. I go, and I kept saying, that's 7 years for everything. And she goes, yeah, that's for everything. I was like, that's everything. Like everything that happened, like in Atlanta, like innocent stuff that you don't know about. She said, look, what's important is you turn yourself in Tampa. I was like, okay, well, I'm closer to Atlanta. Why wouldn't I turn myself in Atlanta? And she's like, look, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Well, that would have been your service would have gotten president if I walked in there, right? So, and I don't know anything about rivalries and how they work at that time. I do now. But so we go back and forth, and I continually ask her, so that include Atlanta and everything. And at some point I realized, I thought she's just not going to answer. And so finally I said, listen, you keep dodging this question. And she said, all I can speak for is Tampa. So if you come back to Tampa and you cooperate against everyone, 7 years. And she's telling me she wants me to cooperate against my ex-wife. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I said, my ex-wife didn't do anything. She doesn't know anything. She didn't do anything. She's never, that's not what I heard. And she's going, and I was like, no. I was like, oh, wow. I said, that's just for, she's like, that's right. I said, all right, we're done. She's, no, wait, I can call the Atlanta U.S. Attorney. I said, nah, lady, I wouldn't believe you if you told me what I was saying. I don't trust you. And I hung up the phone and threw it out the window. right here. He's right here. I look in the rearview mirror. There's two guys running towards the back of my car. I punch it and I take off. Sounds dramatic. Wasn't that dramatic? Already there was no cars. I knew there was no cars already pulling out. You know, it wasn't like a TJ Hooker where I jumped over the, slid across the hood and you know, they didn't catch the car and hang on to that. But you know, so they're running and I boom hit it.
Did you spill the coffee or?
No, because it was one of those little things. That's what wrong with it. But
you're making it sound like you're pretty calm. Weren't you panicking here? Yeah. So you're under fear. You're still operating.
Like, yeah, I operate like I. It's funny you say that because the Secret Service, when they talk to these guys, they all the people that they spoke with said the same thing over and over again. The guy was a professional. He never seemed upset. He never seemed agitated. He was never in a hurry. He, you know, like, but most of the time I wasn't. But it wasn't until the police got involved, because federal law enforcement got involved, that I started really, getting anxious. So at that point, I take off. I drive about a mile down the road.
Who were the two guys that were?
I thought it was FBI. I ordered the Freedom of Information Act when I got to prison at some point, in the future, and it was U.S. Marshals. So
sounds pretty dramatic to me. U.S. Marshals running towards your car, you pull it. I mean, yeah, but it's all right.
It's hard not to tell it like it's dramatic.
I understand.
But
there's not much traffic.
It's not like their fingers were at the back of the car, they're holding on, But it was, if I had waited an extra 20 seconds, they would have been on my car. They would have been right there.
Would you consider giving up there?
No, all I just did was all the time. Listen, my instinct is get out, go, 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 go.
You're already on the line.
I'm already in trouble. It's not like they're gonna add anything. Although, to be honest, it only got worse because at that point, I drive down the road, I stop at a homeless facility, I survey three guys. I'm a mile down the road. Like, looking back on it, I think, what were you thinking? But they were three homeless guys that were in their early 30s, and they were all Caucasian. That's hard to find. But trust me, I've looked, spent hours before this, trying to find anything.
So that's like the golden thing you're looking for is white guys in their 30s.
Right. Because I was in my 30s. Like, I was an old man. So I survey them. I drive straight to Nashville. Get to Nashville. Drive through an area called Green Hills. Well, at first, when I got to Nashville, I stayed the night, and the next day I went into, I'm going to say a UPS store. It was actually a Kinko's. They used to be called Kinko's.
So I don't remember Kinko's. Oh yeah, they got bought by FedEx.
Oh, was it FedEx? Okay, then it was a FedEx. So I go in there, and you give them like $50 or something, or $20 or something. They give you like 100 business cards. So I go get a phone number, burner phone. I go in there, I call and get a phone number from HQ, the local HQ. I come up with a name, Manufactured Funding Group. I've got two phone numbers. I get business cards made with the name. One of the guys' names that I surveyed was I ordered all of Joseph Carter's vital information, right? Like all of his birth certificate, social security card, everything that night from like a Kinko's or somewhere. I forget where. But from one of these places, I went online. You could go online back then, right? Like there was a Wi-Fi everywhere. So I ordered the stuff. It shows up a couple days later. I take that information. I go and I get a driver's license. We're about within like 7 or 8 days. I've got a driver's license in this thing. I get in that car, Michael Echo's car. I drive it all the way back to Nashville. I leave it in long-term care. Get on a plane, fly back to Nashville. Go in and buy myself a brand new car. This was brand new, it was a couple years old. But from like CarMax, within 2 weeks, I am completely 100% set up. I start dating for 3-4 months. That gets really boring. And
where again? Nashville.
Nashville. So I start dating a bunch of chicks, and then I end up meeting this one girl.
By the way, are you lonely here because you're on the run?
Man, listen, I'm telling you right now, being on the run was the best part of my life. Really, everybody, all these guys say it was horrible. I was so concerned, looking over my shoulder. And I wasn't. Keep in mind, I've gotten 5 or 6 traffic tickets while on the run. I went to traffic school as someone else. I got so many traffic tickets in his name. I went to traffic school as him. Like if I got pulled over, like I'm not concerned.
See, your confidence just is.
And I'm driving a vehicle in the name of the driver's license that I have that was issued by that state, full coverage insurance. I'm not an idiot. I'm not driving around a stolen car with a scorpion taillight and a body in the trunk. Like I'm covered. Like I'm not concerned about the local cops.
Plus, you go to Starbucks, sipping your coffee, driving away from U.S. Marshal.
Right. That was.
You could start believing that it's impossible to catch you.
That is exactly what it is. It's every time I just kept getting more and more emboldened, more and more cocky, arrogant. Like I'm too good. Which is great until it catches you. And so I meet a girl named Amanda Gardner. Well, what I end up doing is, keep in mind, I've only got 100,000 or so. So I go and I start buying houses in the area, in this area called J.C. Napier. Next is just close to downtown. And I buy these houses and I buy them for like 60, 70,000. And I report the sales at 210, 190, 205, that's it. Same thing. And I refinance the house and I start pulling out money. I meet this girl, Amanda Gardner. We hit it off within a few months. She moved in. We move into a house in that area. I renovate a house. We move in there. I borrow $3.5 million, and I'm buying houses. Now I'm buying houses reporting the value. I started all over. I borrow like $3.5 million. I meet Amanda. We move in together.
Did you tell her? What did you tell her about
She kind of, what she knew was that it's odd, right? I have no photograph. Everything I own is brand new. She's like, there's nothing in this house that's more than 4 months old or 6 months old. You have no photograph. You have no internet presence. You have no, every stick of clothing is brand new. You don't have old pairs of jeans.
Did you tell her stories about the past? Maybe is there a fabricated?
Initially, there was a fabricated version that I owned a mortgage company. My typical story was like I owned a mortgage company and I got bought out by a household bank. They're doing very well. I got bought out by a household bank. I have a non-compete clause. I ended up with like $500,000 after paying off all my bills, and just decided to kind of travel around the U.S. And now I'm here and I'm gonna start renovating houses. But that, you don't call home. Nobody calls you. Your family doesn't call you. You tell stories about your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, friends. I don't know any of these friends. Never see any of these friends. They never call you. They never, it's just like shit. So at some point, I basically just said to her, look, at one point, I had to have a check that I refinanced the house, right? And I had like, I want to say something like, it might have been 30,000, but let's say 20,000. I had a $20,000 check to Amanda Gardner. Because you have to have these checks. You can't have them are they not finding you? I mean, everybody, people know you, like, your general contractor, which I met 4 months before. This guy 6 months before that, 2 months before, She's like, so and so, so and so, so, and I'm like, right, right. Well, I said, well, she's like, I mean, they've got your name, they've got your. I go, well, that's identity theft. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, well, my name's not. My name's not Joseph Carter. And it was, what is your name? I go, well, this. Don't even worry about it. This is what's happening. This is where I'm at. This is a month into the relationship. I mean, this is what most people. I'd say maybe a month or two. But she was just too inquisitive. And I know what it was. She found like $40,000 in cash in my freezer one night. That was another thing that happened. She went to get a popsicle and she opened up the flip to get a popsicle. She opened the wrong one and it was all cash. And she was like, the other day, this conversation, the other day I opened up the boxes about this cash. So I kind of explain it, but I had a feeling she's gonna be okay with it, you know.
She wasn't.
She was okay with it.
Like, I mean, to me, that's just a fascinating conversation to have. Like,
it was a great conversation.
Because oftentimes in relationships, you learn about each other and you find out things.
That's a doozy.
Yeah, it's a good one to find out. The name you're using is not your real name, and the Secret Service, the FBI, and everybody else are listening.
Yeah.
And you're, like, to be honest, you're not a violent criminal. So it's like,
but she didn't know my name. Like, she was like, and I told her, I said, look, if you start digging, if you find out my name, like, I'll leave. Like, there's certain things that catch you. Staying in contact with people that you know, that's how you get caught. Going back to see people, that's how you get caught. Telling people who you are, that's how you get caught. And I was like, so I'm Joseph Carter. Everything's fine. And she was like, okay. And keep in mind too, this girl, your car's broken? Or your car's not going well? Take it and trade it in. We'll go get you another car. We'll get you, Infinity, FX or whatever, a 55,000, $60,000 vehicle. She's driving the equivalent of a beat up old Nova. I mean, you want to go on vacation? We'll go on vacation. You want to do this? You want to do that? So, we're buying houses. We're renovating houses. We're building brand new houses. We're buying lots. Like, she's like in the middle of this, like, holy Jesus. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, in our bank account. Her bank account. I opened up a corporation in her name. She's opening a bank account. She's got this website. It's a lot. And while this is happening, we start seeing a friend of hers. So this other girl comes in the picture. Her name's Trina. And Trina is uh, so.
is this like a sexual thing?
Yeah.
Or
So,
an actual relationship?
More like she's coming to work with us. So we've got a ton of friends. Her name was Rebecca Hickey. She went by Becca. So she's Rebecca Hickey, which is she's got a Texas driver's license, the whole thing. And they're screaming at her, and they put her in the car, and they're driving the whole way. She goes, listen, the guy, the Secret Service agent told me 45 minutes. She's telling us, you're losing your job. You're losing. I mean, he's like, I couldn't believe it. Like, we got pictures of her. We're like, this is huge. She's like, Mommy, are you insane? Look at that chubby little thing. Oh, yeah. Would not budge till they actually put her hand on the scanner. And she goes, okay, I'm Rebecca House. What do you need? They're like, where's that from? She's like, I have no idea. That fucker left like a year ago. So,
But she contributed to the story, to the legend of her as well.
because she was interviewed by Fortune magazine, and it was horrendous. The article is horrendous. He was abusive. He's a Don Juan that forced me to fall in love with him, commit mortgage fraud, and then took all the money and left. By the way, they found like 40 or 50 grand on her, and maybe another 30 or 40 in her bank account, and no other money. So anyway, and she was, by the way, she got caught. She was in communication with her family, so she's talking to her mom,
And she got caught up.
and her mother through multiple conversations. One conversation being, "Mom, I'm doing fine. I can't tell you where I am, exactly, but I'm in Houston, Texas." Next one, 6 months later, I enrolled in beauty school. Houston, Texas beauty school. How many are there? And her mom, bipolar. I just want to see my daughter. I can't remember her face. And honestly, she is. So, um,
So you're getting more and more famous nationally.
right. So I got all these
You're having a threesome with Amanda and Trina.
and what ends up happening is we end up going on, and listen, Amanda and I, we've gone to Greece, Italy, um, Croatia. We're going on multiple trips, and we've just gotten back from like a 10-day cruise of the Greek Isles, and there's we get home and Amanda goes online and there's a blog about Dateline about their one of their new specials called The Thief of Heart, and that's me. Apparently, I'm the thief of heart, and I'm apparently going around and it's based on Becky's story that I'm wooing women to commit fraud, stealing all the money and then leaving so far. Well, they interviewed her. They're interviewing multiple people, multiple in my case. They're putting together an episode. It's going to be released in November. So I'm terrible. At this point, I've been on number one for 3 years, and I'm like, there's lots of things I can care less about. Fortune, I don't want to go with Fortune. Bloomberg, I don't want to hang out with them. I'm hanging out with contractors that pay for this for me. I'm not hanging out with these guys. So, local news, who cares? Even local news channels, I don't care. But Dateline, there weren't 400 channels back then, So Dateline comes out, even if you don't see it the first time, they're going to rerun it 3 months or 6 months or 10 years from now. They might rerun it again. My face is going to come up. So I could be perfectly fine 5 years from now. And one day, the barista that I go to every other day looks at Dateline and goes, "Oh my God, that's Mr. Johnson or that's Mr. Thomas or whatever." So the point is that I was like, yeah, I gotta go. I can't stay here. I gotta get out of the country. So I was gonna go to. Well, we really started doing research, and Amanda ended up saying Australia. Australia at the time, I don't know how it is now, but at the time, if you went to Australia with like $100,000 and a business plan, you could become a permanent resident alien. You can't vote, but you can buy property. You can open a business. You can't get jobs. And they didn't require a fingerprint. So there's no criminal background check. Now, if you want to be a citizen, you have to get an FBI criminal background check. Like I got to run that. So I was like, wow, I can go there and start a So what we do is we start refinancing houses. We start pulling out money as quick as we can. I'm asking guys, labor guys that I work with, my general contractor, my real estate agent, hey man, can you cash this check for 6 grand? Just cash. Nobody says no. Everybody, yeah, no problem, no. A few guys are like, yeah man, can you give me 10%? Yeah, I'll give you 10%. So that's happening. We're pulling out cash. Um, One day, Amanda gives Trina a phone Trina's is in that hot. Dateline's coming out. We're leaving. We got to get a bunch of cash. And Trina goes, okay, I'll cash the check. What she does instead is she calls the Secret Service. They watch my house for 3 days. I come home one day. They pull the cars up. Anyway, so it's a little bit longer than that, but that's the short version of me getting arrested and probably kicked in the
First of all, because you got in the way, what short context is crazy?
One day, Amanda gives Trina a bunch of checks and has to go to cash them. That sparks a conversation that, like, what is happening? She confides in. By this point, by the way, Amanda knows who I am. So by this point, she's actually came across the letter that I wrote to my parents, and I left Amanda. So she's figured out who I am. She tells Trina who's in that hot. Dateline's coming out. We're leaving. We got to get a bunch of cash. And Trina goes, okay, I'll cash the check. What she does instead is she calls the Secret Service. They watch my house for 3 days. I come home one day. They pull the cars up. Anyway, so it's a little bit longer than that, but that's the short version of me getting arrested and probably kicked in the
First of all, because you got in the way, what short context is crazy?
Women, man. Women.
They also are the thing that make life worthwhile.
Listen, God bless her. She did the right thing. It honestly, based
There
on.
you go, back to the right thing.
But I mean, based on what she saw, based on what the Secret Service told her, and what the articles that she's reading, I'm a bad guy. I'm not a bad guy in general, right? So I don't deserve loyalty. I don't think so. Um, I'm ripping people off, and she's thinking that her friend is in danger. You know, the FBI is saying I have a weapon. He's dangerous. He's got a weapon. We believe he's armed and dangerous. When I was in Florida, I had a concealed weapons permit, but I got rid of both my guns when I was placed on probation. I remember that. Someone questioned that. But they used that to say, they said, oh, he has a concealed weapons permit. Okay, well, he's armed and dangerous. Like, there's little things, the thing they're telling her, read this article. Look, he forced this girl to fall in love with him, that that's what she's going to do to your friend. So she negotiated also, I think she got 10,000, which is embarrassing. I'm ashamed that she's got $10,000.
Then send it to him.
Yeah, and told him this is where he is. His name is Joseph Carter. This is where he is. They launch it. They bring me downtown.
What did you feel like?
I didn't feel good, man. It was bad. It was a bad day. It was a bad day. First of all, Casino Royale was coming out on Friday. It was at first Daniel Craig as James Bond, and the whole week I've been telling Amanda I'm going to go see Casino Royale. She goes, okay, well on Saturday we're going to go to this festival. I go, that's fine, but on Friday, she's like, right, Casino Royale. And she's like, okay, by the way, on Thursday I thought we could go to this. That's fine, but on Friday, Casino Royale. And when they put the handcuffs on, the first thing I thought of? I'm not going to get to see it. I'm not going to. And I saw it about 5, 6 years later. When on the distribution, it's like, it's not the same. So, yeah. So they bring me to Nashville. Then they transport me to all over the place. I go on, sophisticated identity theft, money laundering, use of a fraudulent passport, and there's like 30 counts of this, 20 counts of this, 20. But none of that matters. Like even if you just dropped all the counts to one count and stacked them, it's like 150 something years. It's not going to go.
So everything makes sense.
And that's what they always say. You're looking at 150,000. Your lawyers are like, listen, you're not looking at that. You're looking at 50 million. Like what? That still matters. That still matters. So my lawyer comes in and sees me one day, like our first meeting, and she says, Millie Dunn, and she says, listen, I've looked at everything. Well, first they say you're responsible for like 25 or 20, whatever, 30, 25 or 26 million dollars in loss, and I'm like, that's not good. And I'm like, not even, I said, not even potential loss. There's just no way. I mean, there's not way. And then they come back. She comes back and she says, well, they're saying 19. It's not possible. So when the FBI is saying like 40 million, they're saying 11.5 in Tampa plus 40 million for the mortgage company. So that it ends up being like plus what I stole on the run. It ends up being like 55 million. But she gets them to drop like 40. Like that's the brokers, that's this, that's that, drop it. And they're like, which he's so done. It doesn't matter. They drop that. So it ends up being like 15 million. And then it's down to what is the other? They said 9.5, and I got it down to like 6. So, which good for me. So, what ends up happening is they've charged me with all these things, and she's like, okay, you're like, you plead guilty, and you can go with the sentencing guideline, which is going to be like, she's like, I mean, it depends. She said it might be whatever, 54 years. But if they run them, concurrent or consecutive, depending on which one they do. But she said most likely it ends up being like 30 years. It's like, that's not good. That's not good. So we kind of go back and forth, and trying to figure out what I'm looking at. Now, as we go through the whole thing, she ends up saying, she knocks off a bunch of stuff that they're saying I did. An enhancement. We all have a base level enhancement. A base level is, let's say, a level 8. That should be maybe a few years. But then they start adding on. Did what he do, was it sophisticated? Yes. Okay, 3 levels for sophisticated. Were there more than, how many victims? Were there more than 50 victims? Yes. Okay, that's 6 more levels. Okay. Did he change the jurisdiction to evade detection? Yes, that's 4 more levels. Okay, they start adding, boom, boom, and when you start adding up all those levels, plus your criminal history, and I have a big criminal history because I was already on federal probation, and I committed a new crime on federal probation, so that was another enhancement. And this case, so I'm like a category, I think like category 2 or 3. So they come back and they're saying 20. Well, they don't come back right away. But she ends up saying you're probably looking at 14. Okay, that's reasonable. And so she's saying, so we get the PSI back. We officially get what's called a pre-sentence report. They're saying 26 years. So they really said 32 years. And I argued, and we got it down to 26 years and 4 months. Which is 316 months. That's an 8 months. It doesn't sting that much. So she says to me, Millie sits down with me. She says, well, did you have to cooperate? And I was like, okay. And she said, because you're guilty. You're extremely guilty. She's like, you can't go to trial. And she said, so you need to cooperate. I was like, well, what do I get if I cooperate? She said, the way it works is you cooperate and you hope for the best. And I was like, are you serious? You tell them everything you know and you hope for the best. And she's like, what part of the problem is, she said, everybody in Kansas cooperated. Rebecca has cooperated. Everyone across the board. Nobody that hasn't cooperated.
By the way, when you say
Yeah,
AKA snitch.
right. They came in, they sat down with their lawyer. They said, "This is what he did. He did this. He did that." They showed us documents. Yes, yes, yes. That's my signature. I didn't know what that was. Everything was my fault. They didn't do anything. It was all me. So they've all cooperated, and they haven't been charged. They've been indicted. They're all named as unnamed co-conspirators on the indictment. So I've got like 12 people. There's like probably 20 people that are involved, but there's like 12 of them that are. So I've got all these names, KZ, DL, DY. It's like I know who that is. Like I know who DW. That's Dave Walker. I know who these people. And so this is a list. There's like 12 of them plus me. So and some of them walked in and said, "I'm guilty. I just want to be split guilty." The girl Allison, she walked in, said, I'm tired of waiting for you to come get me." Walked in with her lawyer and said, "I just want to plead guilty." And they sentenced her, and she went to jail. She got like 36 months or 30 months. She called the prison that she went to the low security. It was a female prison, female camp. Called the camp and asked her if she could come by for a tour before she went. And they went, "Excuse me?" She said, "Well, I'm going to be there for about 2 years. So I'd like to come in. Is there like a tour I can take? Because I'd like to know where I'm going, what it's going to be like, how I should prepare." And they just started laughing. They said, "There's no tour, sweetie. We'll give you the tour." You gotta love that. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I thought I was prepared. There's no tour. So uh, Becky got 70. But when I got caught, when I was sentenced, they reduced it to like 30 or no 40, so 40 months. They reduced it.
because she
Cooperated. That's true.
right.
You want to say snitch? Or
Well, there
rat?
must be. I mean, snitch is too harsh of a word, but yeah, the rabbit. I mean, you're saying. I don't know.
We can get there. We'll get there.
All right. All right. So where does this sentencing come?
So I should say first on the cooperation subject. My lawyer wanted me to cooperate, and by this point I realized like you don't have a choice. No, that's not true. I could have been a gangster. I don't
need to be a gangster in this game.
Like a stand-up guy. I could have said, "I'll just take it. Give me 54 years. Go fuck yourself. I'm not gonna snitch on nobody." And I know you look at me and you think tough guy. I'm not a tough guy at all. I'm not doing 50 some odd years. Like I'm not doing it. I don't want to do 30 years. I was hoping for, I knew it wasn't possible, but I would have satisfied first, got a slap on the hand like I got the first time. I really thought I deserved. Honestly, when my lawyer asked me, "What do you really think you deserve?" And I thought like I deserved it. I deserved 10 years. But so she said, "Look, they want to talk to you." So the FBI, well, first the Secret Service flies in. They come in and they interview me.
Who's more terrifying, FBI, Secret Service?
The Secret Service was so overwhelmingly professional. The FBI, and really only one of the FBI agents that interviewed me, I don't know how he was an agent. I don't know. He was just ineffective, incompetent.
Oh, so it's incompetent.
The other one was Candace.
Oh, you met her?
Of course I did. Of course. She's
What was her own?
5'11", wearing 3-inch heels.
Yeah.
She's a giant. In impeccable shape. Attractive. One of the angriest human beings I've ever met. And every FBI agent that I've met since then that knows her and I've mentioned, they all say, "I wish you think of her." And I'm like, "What? Why?" They go, I was like kind of aggressive. They go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's a bulldog." All of them were like, "Yeah, yeah. She's something else." Like
Secret Service is a little bit more like
very personal, very it's their job. It's like, "Hey, this is just my job." They're polite, professional. That's it. This is my 9 to 5. So, but they come and they fly in and they meet with me for 3-4 days. One of the funny things identities, names. And I go, what are you talking about? And he pulls out a bank statement and he slaps it on the counter and he goes, you've got money in Southern Exchange Bank. You've got $190,000 in Southern Exchange Bank. And I look at it and I went, it was the name Walter Hulk. And I went, did you call the bank? He said, yeah, we called the bank. And I went, okay. They didn't tell you that. And they said, well, no, we left several messages. I said, did you go to the bank website? He goes, yeah, I went to the website. I said, what'd you think? And he went, what do you mean? It's the bank website. I said, yeah, but it was professional, right? It was like a professional website. He goes, it's a bank website. And I go, yeah, but it was well done. And he goes, oh, God. And I go, yeah, convincing. And I go, it's all an illusion. And I said, the bank doesn't exist. The fake bank. I made the bank. Made it when I was in, not even in Tampa, I think. I got to Nashville when I made it. And I was like, yeah, it's an illusion. The bank statement. It's like, they'll color bank statements. I said, yeah, well, no shit. So, there's no, I said, as a matter of fact, I said, who's using the, I haven't paid for the service in months. And he turned around and he called it and it went, it disconnected. And I was like, how do you not know that's a thing? Well, it turns out there was a Southern Exchange Bank. And I used their bank routing number. And so, I always thought that was funny. That it's like, well, I remember it really for a split second there, I was kind of like really embarrassed that they called me. Believe this. You're the Secret Service. Anyway, I talked to them. There's really, as far as the Secret Service is concerned, there's just not much I can tell them. Just, like, it was me. Becky's already told them everything. Amanda's already told them everything. It's not hard to track. And when they raided my house, they've got boxes and boxes. So it's laid out. It took forever. Like, I still went through everything. I explained how I got the driver's licenses, how I made the bank statements, how I made the birth certificates, the whole social engineering of figuring out what these little loopholes are. It's like 7 days total for these guys. So
you mean like questions?
Yeah, it was like they questioned me for all day, and then they take me back to the marshal's holdover, and then the next morning I wake up and they chain me up again and bring me back.
What's that like? What's that process of questioning? Like, are they? You're somebody who is exceptionally good at conversation, charismatic. As part of the games you play, are they good at conversation?
The problem is they're not there to shoot the shit. You see what I'm saying? Like, they have an agenda.
But they have to use their words to get information out of you. Aren't they trying to manipulate you?
I'm not holding anything back. It's not like I'm scaring Jim. Trust me, Jim's got to go. You're looking at 20 some odd years, but Jim can do 5. Bill can do some. Tom can do 6. I don't even like Jerry. Jerry can do 20. So I'm ready. I'm ready to cut everybody's throat.
But you're not guaranteed that you're getting anything for that.
Right. In all my time, I've seen one time where an inmate got a guarantee to have his sentence reduced. It was signed by the head of the FBI, Robert Mueller, gave it to him to have a conversation with him. That's the only time I've ever seen that document.
Okay, so a lot of days in both the Secret Service and the FBI.
So the FBI Candace was irritated, didn't like me. And I remember when she took the cuffs off, I was like rubbing my wrist. She goes, your wrist hurt? And I go, yeah. And she goes, get used to it. She was just an asshole. Yeah, just all around. Not that she didn't have a right to be. Everybody else was professional. So, okay. So we talked for 3 or 4 days with the FBI, and they asked a ton of questions. They brought documents. So it's like, hey, who signed this? And it's like, oh, that's not my signature. That's so and so's signature. Or I signed that. I signed that. I signed that. That's so and so. Where's this check? Who is this? Oh, that's so and so. You're looking over everything. One of the things they wanted to know about was, which I never talked about, it's so minor, is I bribed a politician. I got him elected because we got him elected to the city council so he could vote to get the lot. We bought like 100-acre lot in Ybor City, and I wanted them all to bribe him and got him elected.
That doesn't seem minor.
That's his grandson.
That's great. I mean, that was on his
That's a
pocket.
whole other thing. Like I mean,
All right.
so what happened is when they got all of the bank accounts, they got all these checks going to Kevin's wife, and so they're like, why did James Red donate $500 to Kevin's wife? Why did Alan Duncan donate? Why did and then so I had to explain to him, oh yeah, well because we wanted to keep it humble, so we just gave him a bunch of money, put it together. Yeah, he didn't get elected, but he did get all those checks. But because he never did, I took off on the run before he was able to do that. And then he ended up getting, not long, too long after that, he ended up, about 5 or 6 years later, he ended up getting indicted for bribery. But not mine, on somebody else's case.
Can I take a small tangent here and ask how many politicians do you think commit crimes a little bit or a lot somewhere?
I mean, I think there's some ways that are like they're seemingly legal.
Or mention gray area.
Well, that's not gray. Like this guy was. At one point, I couldn't find anybody to write $500 checks anymore, so I just gave him cash. Like I'm just handing him $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 in cash. So, but I think most of them have legal ways to make ungodly amounts of money for influence. But is it legal? No, they're politicians. They've made it so that it's not illegal. If you really sat down and explained it to someone, the average person would say that's not right. Like, oh no, that's legal.
So, okay, so at the end of these few days, uh, what was the sentencing like?
Yeah, I end up I go to sentencing. I get my PSI in, and it's 32 years to life. And so we argue about it with the prosecutor just before sentencing, and they get it down to 26 years, 4 months. And then Millie says, listen, don't worry, because I'm trying to backpedal at this point. I'm like, I might as well go to trial. If I lost the trial, I couldn't get more than 30. You can't, well, more than 32 years. You can't get life. 32 is the max. It was just a mistake. It said 32 years to life. You can't get life. So, like, the most I can get is 32 years. So I was like, I'll go to trial. Might as well just go to trial and see if I can get them to reduce some of these enhancements. She insists that she can get the enhancements knocked down. And if you read, they show you read the enhancements. Some of the enhancements, they didn't apply to me. So she goes and I believe her. And I think she made a valid argument. We go to sentencing. My mom's there. She's crying. My dad's there. He's looking at me like he's disgusted. And there's a whole bunch of reporters, like a whole bunch of passed. And I plead guilty. Millie gets up. My lawyer gets up and she argues these enhancements. And every single time, the judge is like, I disagree. Overruled. It's like, boom, 5 more years. Bam, 6 more years. Bam. But if she had won the enhancement she argued, I would have got 14 years. And now, keep in mind, too, prior to this, a month or two prior to this, the U.S. attorney had called Millie and said, look, Dateline had already come out, by the way. Remember I was worried about Dateline coming out? Well, it had come out. But they wanted to do a follow-up because it came out like a month or two after I got arrested. And they were saying, hey, we want to recut it with interviews with him. Well, Gail McKenzie wants, that's the U.S. attorney, she wants me to do that. Interviewed by Dateline, and he was interviewed by the Secret Service and the FBI. And if you do that, you said you'd reduce his sentence. You consider substantial assistance, and you would reduce him. What are you going to ask for the sentence to be tomorrow at sentencing? And she said, we did consider substantial
you little pimp.
within right after count, four cars come out. They come out
How'd
of
you
the house.
find out about me?
So they're like, right after count, I'm afraid somebody's gonna write me like, I'm gonna be eating an ice cream, walking on the rec yard,
Okay, very cool, man.
Victorino,
I'm just taking a
and
nap.
I'm, it's been months and months and months that I've been locked up in this county jail, and I'm thinking I want to go to prison. I got now plenty of I want guys. I had ice cream.
Yeah, but there was a stab in you.
Oh, and they kept telling me I was going to go to a camp. You're going to go to a camp. You're going to go to a love. And honestly, I was those days I was walking on the rec yard. I was, so I was at the medium. I got there. It's a real prison. The doors, bam, and they just open the little tray thing and feed you out of the tray. And there's a stainless steel toilet, and they have that in the county too. But it's exactly what you think of prison is.
Here's like a
This is the simplest way to say it: is that if you get stabbed in prison, you had it coming. You did something. So at least 10 or 15 didn't want to be there. The other guys seriously wanted to be there. And I didn't want those guys to be there anyway. They didn't be a problem. So the other guy, he was but 90, he's about 100% of them are lying about it. He just came out in the newspaper. I go, man, I'm not concerned. He says, if you are concerned, you got to come immediately to the reserve section and tell us. We'll shift you. I said, okay. I get out there. I had a very packed routine. There were those guys everywhere. And I'm thinking at some point I might just be walking around, a guy might walk up and just smack me in the head. But it didn't happen. And it's not the guys aren't getting stabbed, but they've got it coming. I didn't tell on anybody here. I didn't do anything. It's not that on other yards I might not have gotten smashed, but I didn't get smashed. And I've been there a while, and I talk to real estate classes. Everybody knows this is what it takes to take real estate. So I think that insulated me to a degree. I also had made a few friends there, and I think they were probably also kind of putting up a little, like throwing a couple bad words. So I'm walking across and I'm on. But I mean, when I say that in line, literally like that's a couple of times. He said the same thing to a guy in line one time. When he first come to see me, I told her, listen, I want to do all this. Come to see me, I told her, listen, I want to do all this, but no matter what happens, I need you to write me a letter. If they don't, and if they don't indict these people, I need you to write me a letter that I can present to the U.S. attorney on my behalf that I did everything I could. And she goes, I'll do that. Because that's fine. In her own room. And I'd been reading true crime, and I'd been reading true crime, But it's crazy. I know it's crazy. I know how. I see you looking at me like, hey, that's delusional. I know it works. But so at some point, one of my buddies comes to me and says, look, you got to go talk to Frank. Well, here's the other thing. Over the course of a year or two that he starts doing legal work for guys, he starts just taking on guys' cases. I'll do your motion. I'll do your legal work. I'll do this. Keeps him busy. But suddenly you start hearing people get released. Jimmy just got 10 years knocked off his sentence. He's going to halfway house next month. Tom got an immediate release. Frank's walking people up to R&D, shaking their hand. Guys are walking up to him in tears, crying. And so, crazy or not, how much choice do I have? I called 3 different lawyers on the street and said, this is what happened. What can I do? What can I do? They told me to do this and this and this, and I worked with them, and then they decided not to proceed, and what can I do? And they said, you're here. Nothing you can do. You cannot, in the 11th Circuit, you cannot force them to file a reduction on your behalf. You cannot do it. It's impossible. You're hit. You're done. It's over. I'd love to take your money, Mr. Cox, but it's not going to happen. I'm not just going to take your money. You're going to lose. 3 different lawyers. I talked to TI's lawyer. Told me, well, not going to happen. So my buddy said, go talk to Frank. I said, well, why? I got nothing else to lose. So I go talk to Frank. He actually has a little manic moment. That little thing that I just showed you, that's exactly what he said the first time I talked to him. Yeah. I won't let this happen. He's like, I'm going to need your transcript. I need to shoot this. I need to shoot this. So, anyway, he files a 2255. The government comes in. He's time barred. Frank comes back. They answer his motion. He files a report. They file, it just goes back and forth. It's only for 6 months to a year. And at some point, I go to mail call, and they call my name, and they hand me this thing, and I open it up, and it says the government filed a motion for a stay so that they want the court to appoint me a lawyer and to discuss filing a Rule 39. And I read it, but I couldn't even understand. Like, what do I understand? So, I rushed to go find Frank. I showed it to Frank, and he says, yeah, they're saying it. They're going to send you a lawyer, and you're going to negotiate for how much they're going to reduce your sentence. He says, perfect. So they fly this woman down. Her name is Estefan. She flies down. We come to the visitation room. They bring me there, the lawyer's room, whatever. And so we're sitting there, and I remember her talking, and she says, listen, your motion, your 2255 is written well, but honestly, you don't have much room for error. And they're offering you a 1-level reduction, which is very nice. And I went, oh, that's not enough. And she said, well, I don't know what to tell you. She said, they're willing to bring you back. And I was like, well, I don't know. I got to find Frank. Frank said I could work with many levels. And we're going back to who's Frank? And I go, Frank's the guy that's doing all my legal work. She didn't write all this? And I was like, no. She did you wrote anything? And I explained it to her. And she's like, he's an inmate? And I was like, yeah. And then she's, why is he here? And I tell her, well, because he stole a bunch of money from the federal government. So he's trying to take over work. So I tell her that whole thing. And she's like, you're letting a mentally incompetent, person do your legal work. And I was like, yeah, because all the competent attorneys wouldn't do it. She said, well, now it's fair. Your people said I can fair. And I said, Frank said he could get this done. And she's like, well, you don't, like, I don't even know why they're offering this 1 level. I was like, well, Frank said, and I'm like, Frank this, Frank that. So she gets me, I end up saying, so you're taking advice from a competent person? I said, yeah. And she said, you really don't have a fair experience. I said, if they could hire you, I said, why leave? I call it, the article will be from him, his name, B. Lawson, Douglas Dodd, $100 million firm. But really it was $57 million. So he had lost $57 million. So it says $100 million.